Hi, everyone. How are you doing? Thank you again for joining me on another Sports Talk Tech live show. I'm your host, Dwayne, and we are here to discuss the state of the second test match between the West Indies and South Africa in Johannesburg. I appreciate you joining me on the live. As it stands, it seems as if South Africa is on the verge of victory. It's very difficult, if we were to summarize the state of the test match, to see anything else but South Africa winning this test match. I have to be honest with you, after day 3, I didn't think we would get this far, and I'll get into that in a bit because of our batting performance on day 2. Had it not been for Jason Holder, we would have been even further back. And so I anticipate that we are in for a losing battle. Given what we know about this West Indies team, I don't think they can even win were they to pick up the remaining 3 wickets very early on the 4th day's play. All right, so I want to thank everybody for joining me. Don't forget to hit the like button. Thank you, Imran, for joining me. I will get to your questions in a second for sure. I appreciate you joining me. I know you're joining me from Trinidad, if I'm not mistaken. So thanks again for being here. I will get to some of these things. But I want to quickly do a quick overview. The last time I was here, I was here after day 1. And we were trying to think through the performance of day 1. And now so let me quickly pick up from yesterday. Shout out to Ferdinand. Shout out to, I know you're in South Africa. You must be very happy about your team. Appreciate you joining me as usual on the live. And so when we think about the state of the test match, I think we have to go back to day 2. So on day 2, the West Indies got off really well. They picked up those remaining wickets. Alzari Joseph picking up 2 wickets. Carl Mears getting the other, and they managed to dismiss South Africa in just 18 balls. So you said to yourself, they're giving themselves a platform to do well in the test match. However, every time we discuss West Indies cricket, it's as if we're singing the same songs all over. We've heard it all before, for lack of a better phrase. And the batting problems continued. And as predicted, we didn't do well. Shandapal, Tejan Shandapal lost his wicket very early. He was run out. The captain, Brathwaite, Raymond Reefer, Blackwood offered very little resistance to the South African bowling. A brief resistance from Myers and Roston Chase, who unfortunately lost his wicket because of I would say an inside edge. It's an unfortunate occurrence. But on day 2, if it wasn't for Holder holding the innings together, West Indies would be nowhere close to that 251 run target, that 251 run reply that they did. At one point, if you are understanding the cricket and you saw the way in which South Africa was digging into the West Indies, at one point I wanted to turn it off. And 2, I was saying to myself, absolutely no way we would avoid the follow-on. But the West Indies managed to do it. And so day 2, in a way, was defined by a batting crisis. But credit must go to the South Africans because the excellent bowling performance was on display on day 2 in particular. The likes of Coetzee, Rabada, Harmer, all bowled pretty well. So I always said, and I said it on day 1, anything under a 20 to 30 runs deficit, West Indies have no chance. So they headed in with 70 something. Day 3, they managed to, bowl against South Africa late on day 2. They didn't get any wickets. And day 3, the West Indies were off to a flyer in the first session. 4 wickets, quick succession. and you said to yourself, this might be a good day. But I think, and you can tell me too, they really missed the trick in terms of capitalizing on the early performance in the first session after lunch. They didn't do well. Roach in particular was expensive. I don't think Moti was finding the right line and length either. And they dug themselves in a hole. And once South Africa started to do something, you thought this would have been problematic. So if they too belong to Holder in the sense of helping the West Indies to get into it, we have to give credit to the captain of South Africa, Temba Bavuma. It's all about him. And we have to put it in context here. And thanks everyone for joining me. We have to, and I'll get to your questions and comments to Imran in a second. We have to put this in context. This is the captain of South Africa. He got a pair in the first test match at the Centurion ground. So he's under somewhat of a pressure, you would think, because when you're the leader of your team, you don't want to be, falling behind. And this guy comes to the crease on the morning of day 3 with his team in what can be classified as a bit of a crisis. There's no way around it. It's a crisis. He comes to the crease with his side 8 for 2. You think about that. You're in crisis there. West Indies is about to smile a lot, right? And so what is he going to do? He hadn't made any runs in the last test match. And so you can imagine there's an immense level of pressure on Bavuma. And this is where his leadership shone. And as a West Indian, I'm very happy for this guy. It's hard for us not to see good cricket and not praise it. But he not only showed the kind of leadership that you always want to see, he went beyond, I thought. And so he steadied the innings and he gets himself his second Test 100. A lovely shot of Joseph, got there in fine style. When he was on the 90s, he was doing a little bit of a rush shot here and there. I wasn't quite sure if he was going to lose his wicket the same way Adam did in the first test match. But a lovely shot. And then what does he do after that? He recognizes the state of the test match. He realizes that they have to continue to build the innings to move forward. And so he heads to 150. So he's out there making runs. So those are major landmarks, as you know, in Test cricket. He gets to a century. Sometimes people lose concentration, and he doesn't. And he goes to 150, and then he ends the day on 171. Totally in charge. South Africa leads by 356 runs. The test match is over. There's no two ways around it. The test match is over. So the question is, and we get into it, is there any hope for the West Indies? Not on the current form, but the test match is over. And there's some things we have to think about. In the in the final session of the day's play, South Africa goes for 142 runs, above 4 and over. That's unacceptable if you're the West Indies. That's unacceptable if you really thought that you would make inroads and try to win the test match, or at least not lose it. And yesterday, Jason Noel at the press conference, he says, look, we got back into the game. He steadied the innings. There's a fine knock, that unbeaten 81. Jason Holder, we have to praise him for this. And one of the things that he did, Holder in particular, he charged the bowlers to come back today and deliver. He asked them to try and get South Africa out early. And it started off well, and then everything went awry. So while I'm saying, I'm critical of particularly the last session for the West Indies, I have to also put it in context and think about the state of the match and how long they have been in the field. And I believe there's some obvious fatigue factors as well. I think they've been in the field every day, right? Almost every day if you combine both matches, I think. And so that makes them tired. So I have some more things to go through, but let me quickly get to some of the comments here. But the state of the test match is one that I don't really think we have a shot. Let me do this in order quickly. 5 days until the 1 day series. Yeah, I think there's no other way to think about this, Imran. I think South Africa has significant advantages here. And, I think we're second best by a long way, especially in this format. New captain coming in the likes of Shea Hope. And so we'll see what happens there, but I don't expect much. I'd like them to be competitive. I didn't expect West Indies to come to South Africa and win. And you don't have to come to South Africa and win for it to be a successful series, especially if you think about the long-term growth and development of the team, because certain things just can't be fixed overnight. What you want to see some competitive cricket. And so I'll bring it back to the test match real quickly. We've all, I said on after day one, the ability to structure innings. So what Holder did in the second test match is peak West Indies cricket. One person showing up. That's it. No one else got to above 20. No one gets into the 40s to help him. Nothing of the sort. And so you can't have a response like that and expect to be competitive. Look at that. 81. Next best is what? Mayor's at, 29. And, the likes of Roach and Gudikesh Moti were there as well. They were helping him out. But 17, 1, 15, 6. Those things aren't going to cut it. And so until he can structure these innings, then we're not going to be anywhere close to doing anything. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think, I agree with your sentiment. West Indies they have to do better. I don't think they're not trying. It's an application thing, and sometimes it's hard, but they have to. It's a good question. I don't know if Brathwaite is suffering from anything in terms of why he's not doing a couple of his, whatever you want to call those, Mickey Mouse bowling, but they often get people up. So that's something. For what Ferdinand says, Temba eventually played a test innings, but playing patiently and making West Indies bowlers tired. Good support from. No, exactly. I agree with all of this. And you make a point right here, and this is something that I had on my list of things to discuss. So we'll just get right to it at this moment. So come tomorrow, I imagine that the West Indies will do their very best to get rid of South Africa. Can they get them out pretty early? You would hope that they can get them out before the total gets to 400. I already think it's an insurmountable total to defend on away soil. I think if you are Bavuma, you want to try and get to double figures, to get to a double hundred rather. And so I think that might be your first step. You also want to give yourself time to bowl out the team. The weather seems fantastic, so there's no concerns, and Ferdinand can tell us because he's there in South Africa. I don't think there's any concerns regarding weather for the next day or two. So there's ample time to get West Indies out. But I imagine they would want to quickly get to, say, 400 runs or potentially get the captain to 200 runs. The case of Rabada is interesting. And so Rabada, and we'll bring him up in a second, best bowler on show, excellent, There's nothing bad you can say about this guy. It's a joy to watch. But clearly he has an injury. Something is not right. So the question is, will he bowl in the West Indies second innings? And if he doesn't, what impact will that have on the game? Because this is a guy that can get you out. In many ways, when Rabada is called upon, he invariably is going to get something out of a session. You're not going to hit him around the park, and then you have to be fearful and be cautious. And so, without Rabada, does it put the West Indies mindset? I'm not talking about whether they're committed or not. Their mindset to say, we have an opportunity here to not lose a test match. Because there's a lot of time there, right? So if you think about this, if this is if South Africa was facing a serious batting unit, they would want to get this to close to 450. They would try to bat at least to lunch tomorrow. But they're not facing a serious batting unit. They're not facing a batting unit that's consistent. So I don't know what impact Rabada will have on the team. Yeah. Let me put this way. I'm not quite sure if Rabada's absence, were he not to bowl, or were he to bowl but not as effective as he normally is, if that would still hurt the South Africans, because I just don't know. I mean, I would love to see West Indies go out and chase down these runs and pull off what would be a fantastic thing, end the series 1-1. But there's a lot of things I love, and I also have to remember there is a reality at stake here, and it's difficult. So yeah, thanks, Ferdinand. I think so. I think Hola was good there. Yeah, I think so. He will declare after 200. Yeah. I think so. I think he should go for the 200. It doesn't come around. You never know when those opportunities come around. Obviously, the first inclination is always to win the test match. It's not about individual performances here. And he's already gone to 171. So there's nothing that he should be worrying about. But I would say, I would say, it's what's the lead? 356. If you get it to 400 changes the calculus. You know, for whatever reason, 400 seems daunting. Not many teams have chased down the records. The West Indies actually the West Indies chased down the highest run chase against Australia back in, when was that? 04, 06. I could ask my producer to check for the top highest chasing test match victories. You know, it's not easy. And so, and this West Indies team, I don't think they can do this. And so, but if you even bat to lunch, say the test match went to lunch on day 4, that's still 5 sessions remaining in a test match with good conditions, no rain in sight, that would give any team an opportunity to say we can win the match. The bowling team, rather. You're at home, South Africa. So that's how I'm thinking through it. But yeah, let me know what you think. Yeah, I mean, look, I agree with this. I mean, South Africa probably should be doing a little bit better, but we understand what's going on, and I wanna think through some of the situations happening in South African cricket as well, because from my understanding, and maybe Ferdinand can give me some clarification here as well, it doesn't seem that there's a lot of test match cricket happening for the South Africans in the next 9 months or so, which, you know, I've already talked about the dominance, and I'm going to shift my word from dominance to abuse by the big 3 in cricket: England, Australia, and India. They run the show now. And for the viability of the game, we really need a lot more cricket being played by the other nations. And I have, just to go off tangentially on this as well, there's nothing stopping a South Africa, West Indies, or anybody else to set up series, even though it's not in the calendar. But can they really do it? Because when you think about a team like the West Indies or other nations where they're not paying that same level of money like India, Australia, and England, then it's easier for those players to go globe trotting around to earn a living. And hey, I'm not against people making money, right? So that's the challenge. So those big three nations need to understand that for the viability of the game, they have to do better. But I was having this conversation briefly with my main man Anish, who is from India, and we were briefly talking about this yesterday, and he was saying, yeah, going back to World Series cricket, think about that, and the notion that it's all about money, and the big teams will continue to do things, and they don't care about anybody else. So I'll unpack that at another time, but that's where I'm thinking about this. Let me get some of your comments. Again, thank you everybody for joining me on the live. If you haven't hit that like button, please do so. It really helps with the algorithm rather. I appreciate you. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel and you're finding value in our content, please do so. And don't forget to hit the notification bell, because it will tell you when I go live, when we drop new content. And yeah, this is your show as well, and I appreciate all the comments coming in and the questions, and we want to make it interactive. And I won't be here for too long today, but definitely I wanted to come on and discuss some of the state of the test match rather. What am I missing here? So I think Imran is saying, yeah, South Africa test captain will become the same captain. Yeah. And oh, did he? Thanks. Yeah. No, I think it's I think I saw a little clip of him yesterday when he was talking about a former South African great. But obviously I get the streaming. We pay for the streaming here. I think they're using the same. Is it Star Sports you have in South Africa? Forgive me if I'm getting that wrong. So we probably get the feed from that. And so sometimes we do see some of that, at least where I am in the States. But I don't know what people are getting in the Caribbean, to be honest with you. Maybe Imran can tell us. I think he's in Trinidad, so he might be able to tell us how the coverage looks there. But yeah. But I do agree. The big three they're outrageous. Yeah, and that's another story. Yeah, I do think so. I don't think we will put up any kind of a fight. I think South Africa is going to win both here. I would love to see some progress. I think, look, I want us to win at least a game or two, but, I'm being realistic as well, right? We're having a new captain for T20, new captain for one day as well. Rovman Powell in T20, Shea Hope. I also want to see what Nicholas Pooran can do. I've often said I like Pooran a lot. I thought he got the captaincy too early. But that's also a long-standing problem with West Indies cricket and their succession planning. And we have to fix it. Yeah. I see you say watching it on Flow. Yeah. I don't know if they're showing any of the things that Ferdinand was talking about. But I think there's a challenging time for West Indies, but also an opportunity, yeah, there's also an opportunity. I want to see what's going on. Yeah. No, I know. I was just saying that it's unfortunate what happened to him and how he had to give up the captaincy. But I'd like for people like that to be in the game. He's still young enough. He can contribute. There's so many things about West Indies cricket that it's problematic, and I don't know, right? I would like to figure out what's happening with the likes of Shimron Hetmeyer. Does he want to play for the West Indies? Because the talent is just there and it's not being applied. And we don't come from, this is not the 70s and 80s where talent is coming through in ways that we've never seen before. So those are some challenging times, I think, ahead for West Indies cricket. But I'm hoping that that's a good. I mean, it's hard to know this. Who do you think will be OD World Cup squad for it? I don't know. I mean, it's very difficult to say. I think people are on trial here in the sense. I don't know, right? I'll do a breakdown I guess just before the series starts, but we're up against quality opposition, so I want to see some things there. What I want to say to, and I never thought about, I thought about this, but I just want to say this quickly. I think in the likes of Shea Hope, and I think I did a video on this recently. I'm sure if you haven't seen it, we can put a link in the chat. When West Indies finally announced Rovman Powell and Shea Hope as captains of the ODI, T20 and ODI 50 over game, I was saying to myself, this is probably good timing. So when you think about the likes of Hope, he is in the team for a long period of time. At one point, where is he now? I think he's ranked maybe 14 or 15. He's ranked in the teens in terms of ODI batsmen, but a few years ago, he was probably number 4 in the world. So he's developed a level that you could say he can take on these responsibilities. He's been vice captain before and so on. And so I think he's at the right moment to show some leadership. And if he can deliver with the bat, then it should be an inspiration for the others. That's the kind of leadership I think West Indies need as well. People can lead from the front. And I think if we were being fair to say a Brathwaite in Test cricket, I think he's been leading from the front for some time as well. Unfortunately, he hasn't picked up any runs in this Test series, but there is tomorrow, and I think the pitch looks good. And I know I'm going in and out of different things here, but I didn't want to leave it without saying that I think Brathwaite has been good leadership. There's some questionable feeling stuff he's been doing recently, but I want to say that I think there's an opportunity for Brathwaite and Chanderpaul to structure a good innings. If Captain Brathwaite and Chanderpaul can come out tomorrow, potentially give the West Indies a 100-run partnership. You know, I'm always thinking these things in my head, calculating, and they never come to fruition. But if they can come off and lead, and thank everybody for joining me. I see some new people coming on the live. Appreciate you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. We're talking some West Indies cricket today. I'll be back tomorrow talking some track and field, some indoor championships that's happening in the United States, and many more potentially on Sunday as well. And so I think if they can get West Indies off, because the pitch still look good. The pitch still looks good. I'm not seeing any big cracks in it from what I can look at. I don't know if you've seen it differently as well, Ferdinand, but it looks like a good batting wicket. And once you're able to apply yourself, and without Rabad, as I mentioned, there is a possibility that the West Indies could make a good, healthy attempt at chasing these runs down. But you never know. So back to what you're saying, Imran, I'm expecting some good leadership from Hope. And I think Rovman Powell can build into that. And his leadership for the Talawas and the Scorpions was really good. He's been also vice captain of the T20 in recent years. And so let's hope we can get them going, because we've fallen off a little bit, you know? Yeah. I mean, I feel like you're asking some of these questions. I have no idea what will happen, right? Like, I'm just hoping that we can, you know, it's hard to see us, when we have to go through these qualifiers and so on. It's tough, I just don't know what to say here. I think Ferdinand is saying some stuff about South Africa. They'll choke in the World Cup. Yeah, I think the World Cup is. I haven't given it full thoughts yet. I think in England obviously are still big favorites. Australia looks good. India's, I want to see what happens with Bumrah for India. I think he's just undergoing some surgery. You can't count those guys out. Pakistan, what will Pakistan do? They always show up. New Zealand, very unfortunate in major championships in the last how many years not to win, except I guess for the World Test Championship that they won a couple years ago. But in ODI they have been coming up short, and they have a good, they can come well. So I think that's interesting to see. What's the dates again for the World Cup? I'll ask my producer to put that up. And then you have the T20 coming up next year as well, and that's going to be hosted in the United States and in the West Indies. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm hoping to go to some of those games. I suspect they're going to be held in Florida. We haven't seen the full dates yet, so I'm hoping to at least go to some in Florida and potentially, obviously, in the Caribbean as well. So yeah, I don't think. Yeah, we're way down in the testing. This is not. I'm glad that you brought this up, Imran. I think West Indies should not look at any test ranking, any test nothing. They should look at trying to restructure themselves, build a team that can be competitive. You start playing better cricket, then things will get better. I saw a video yesterday. Was it yesterday I saw it or the day before? They had an interview. It's from West Indies Cricket. They were interviewing Brian Lara, who, as we know, the great Brian Charles Lara is part of the West Indies coaching setup, and he's there in a performance. I think it's a performance capacity. He's there to help the team and so on. And he's also helping the bowlers as well. And, he said he started to really rewatch West Indies cricket in recent times, especially because he was on commentary in Australia. And I remember that, if you remember the Australia series, he was working with the television units out there. And then he went to Zimbabwe to help, and he's also there in South Africa trying to help the team. And so he's there to, in a way, to help to impart things so they can figure out how to stay in the wicket, how to play better, and so on. And I don't know. I mean, I think those things are great, and it's always good when the legends can help you to think about how they do things well. But at the same time, I can't help but think that a likes of Brian Lara is a once-in-a-generational talent, and things come easier for them. Not that he didn't have to work hard, and nobody knows how to stay in a wicket as long as he did, and always attack and entertain. Shiner Paul was there for a long period as well. He would never give us wicket away as well. But I think all of those legends have some important things to help the team with. Kenny Benjamin is there, I think, helping the bowling unit. It's a new coaching setup going on. And so, yeah, exactly. So it's Kenny Benjamin, Imran, who's there as well. Yeah, that's right. And so those are people from yesteryear. Will Kohli get the job fully for the West Indies? I don't know. Those are some questions that we have to see. And so we have to judge West Indies cricket, especially in the next few years. There's some new players that have to come back that will come into the team. There's a question that I had the other day, and it's a fundamental question because for some reason it goes against the philosophy of West Indies cricket. But will we allow Gudikesh Moti 4, 5, 6 series to establish himself as a big-time spinner in the team? Because spinners need time. They need to play in different conditions against better teams. Will we allow it? Because for a long period of time, we've believed in this 4-pronged pace attack. But those days are gone. We don't have those players. You know, we don't have the pitches to develop those players. And so I really think that we have to give him time. Is this a yes to the question? They have to give him time to develop. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. You know, we've seen it in recent years. We haven't given players, spinning players, for an opportunity, spinners rather, an opportunity to develop in the team. We had Bishu, right? And there's another guy that I'm slipping my name. Then what is the status of Bigger? What's his name? Ford, not Ford, Cornwall. You know, so you know, is he ever gonna come back in the West Indies, or is it because he's, let's face it, looks more like a shot putter than a cricketer? But that's for a different day. Yeah, I'm hoping that they allow it because you have to give him a chance, and let's see. Yeah, thanks for saying that. Ferdinand Lara was one of the best I've ever seen. No, I think so. I agree. Rather, he is one of the best we've ever seen. And the thing that I like about Lara, and I don't want to put other greats in it, he was an entertainer. The same way, like you think about a Viv Richards in the West Indies team, entertainer, aggressive players, players who don't want to be held down. They obviously respected the bowling, but once they got in, they would take it over. And so, yeah, I remember when Brian had to beat Sir Garfield Sober's record. I was a schoolboy those days, and I just left out of class and I had to listen to it on the radio. And yeah, this is how I was serious about my sports. You know, I turned out okay, I guess, but yeah, I remember that vividly. And the 501, and then what is it, Matthew Hayden, who took the record back from him. I could be right. My memory might be spotty, but I think it is. And then Brian took it again with a 400 not out. And so his ability to stay in the crease is tremendous, to work things over, to think as a cricketer, because you can't last that long if you're not a thinking cricketer. Thanks everyone for joining me. And yeah, so I'm hoping that Brian can then instill some of this. But how do you tell players? How do you coach them? How quickly can they adapt to the things that you're saying? You know, those things can be challenging. And it goes back to these arguments that we're talking about. How many test matches do they play? And we have to do that. And more first class cricket is needed. More tour cricket is needed. And all of these things need finances, and the Caribbean is not the place for that. And you know, it's tough, right? So I keep repeating myself over and over, and you know, this is what people have been saying, you know. Yeah, I think so too. I think this point, Imran, is like with Alzari, with Jason still in the team. You think Kemar is going to go out? Gabriel. There's a few players in and around that, you know, Jaden Seals, you hope that will come back fit and healthy, because I think he's a generational talent too. And so we need them, and we need better pitches to develop more fast bowlers, and hopefully, because better pitches will also develop better batsmen. There's no question about it. Yeah. So yeah, the match. I'm gonna probably wrap this up in a few, because you know there's other sporting events and I know people gotta go. But don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. So the match against South Africa is, my way of thinking about it is that South Africa is on the verge. I just cannot see anything other than South Africa winning this test match. So if I take off my analysis hat and then take on my hat, my maroon cap, where I love the West Indies and Sarah Van Zyl, my hope is that tomorrow we can bowl out South Africa really early, and then if we can bowl out, if we can chase a target under 400, That's virtually almost 2 days to chase 400 runs. The pitch looks good. I'm hoping that we can get a flyer from Shanda Paul and the captain, and with the likes of Reefer, Blackwood, Chase Mears, and Holder, if they can chip in with some runs, then we can make it a chase. So I would like to see a good chase. Even if we were to lose it, I think from a neutral standpoint, if they can chase well, then it would make for good cricket. If they come close but come up short, then they could take some positives from this. But there are moments in the test match that West Indies were on top, but they didn't capitalize well on, or they didn't continue. And then let's see what happens if Rabada can make any impact. I would say if he's hurt, then they shouldn't play him. On a serious note, not because that would help the West Indies, but if he is, then he shouldn't play, because you have to think about his future, and he's the best. And so, yeah. Again, I want to say thank you to everybody who joined me for this live. I really appreciate you on Sports Talk Tech. And, this is your channel. Wherever you are watching me, let me know. I know Ferdinand is in South Africa. Imran is in Trinidad. Yeah, it's an hour ahead. By Sunday, you and I will be on the same time, Imran. Yeah. I appreciate you. Yeah, as long as it's not England. There's a great book that I have here called Anybody But England. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's a fantastic cricket book here. I put it here. I'm doing a free advertisement here, but it's called Anybody But England. This is my sentiments when it comes to thinking about cricket, and for those who read about the sport and all that stuff, by Rahul Bhattacharya. Very good book. And so, and Mike, the introduction was by him, but Mike McKees, a good friend of mine, and he introduced me to his work. Mike, who unfortunately passed away some years ago. He has a lot of good books. He has books on Ali and so on. I'm going a little bit over and giving you more sports politics stuff as well. But me, that's how I am. But yeah, thanks again, everybody, for joining me. I'll be back, maybe tonight for some track and field. If not tonight, I'll be back tomorrow. We have some new videos on the channel. I think I put out a video on the Glazer ownership as it relates to the Manchester United. So if you're interested in that, that's there. I have a new short up. And again, I can't do this without you, and your support is important to me and to the channel. And so thanks again. Stay safe out there. Enjoy your sports. Smash that like button as you go out. Subscribe. Hit the notification bell. And I will be back soon. Bye for now.